Welcome to Nice Ashes, episode 2. This is Nate.
And Mike.
And what are we smoking tonight, Mike?
We have Punch 1840 Diablos. Never had
this
it before.
one, yeah, I've not had it before either, but it's got the same, I can't remember what you called it, like the box squish. That the
It's a box
diesel.
press. Yep.
Yeah, the box press, yep.
Box press looks to be 6.5, 7 inches long. Hard to tell the gauge, but I'm going to guess it's a 60. So people can look it up online better than I can tell them. I'm just looking with my eye.
That is true. My wrapper here says 56 maybe? 58? I don't know. It's hard to see. The good news is the snowbank I was sitting in last episode has now melted.
Nice.
And I was able to get my fire going out on the patio, and it's, it's 50, 60 degrees out here still, so should be a lot less teeth chattering this time.
Yes. My little label doesn't have any of that information. I must have ripped it like a fool.
Well, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but the wrapper appears to be quite a bit darker than the diesel, than the flathead.
Yes. I would say so, yes. I'm lighting this one with a match as well.
Okay. I'm using my Jetline 3-burner lighter with the mirror on the little cap that I like so much. Also, they don't sponsor us. Nor do matches, I guess.
No. Diamond Matches do not sponsor us.
But all in all, a great brand of matches if you're in the market.
Yes. It reminds me of, we talked about this a little bit last episode. And I talked to you afterwards. You've never heard of King Cobra JFS?
No, I have not.
Well, King Cobra is a internet famous lolcow. And he always says, not a sponsor. Always.
Yep. And there's another group or another YouTube video group, YouTube content creators, I suppose. YouTubers. There we go. I'm aging myself a little bit. The people that put videos on YouTube, that site where you put videos on. But they say that too, Good Mythical Morning, and they do a lot of weird stuff. But I like watching them when they kind of do the candy taste tests. They do blind taste tests of different candies or fast food, chicken sandwiches, things like that. But they quite often say not a sponsor.
Oh, okay. Good Mythical Morning is actually big, though.
Yeah, they're big. And for those of us listeners, not me. But when you say lolcow or whatever, that means something.
Oh, yes. So a lolcow is somebody who is not aware of how ridiculous they are. So they go around and they make YouTube videos typically, and it's hilarious because it's just psychotic. But they don't think they are. They think that everybody else is crazy, and they usually interact pretty strongly with their troll fans.
Okay.
Yes. And that's where a lot of it comes from.
So I suppose time will tell if we're lolcows or not.
Right. Right. Well, King Cobra, he's like a kid with Asperger's. Well, he's not a kid. He's 30 years old, but he's got Asperger's. And he makes videos in a shithole apartment, and he practices magic with his wand. And he'll have a Mountain Dew, and he'll say, not a sponsor.
Okay. Classic.
Yep.
So I think I'm about, if my eyes judge correctly, about 1/4 inch into this so far, this Diablo. And I think the initial 1/4 inch on this has so far been more impressive than the first quarter inch of the flathead.
Okay. Describe what you mean.
Well, it tastes more full. It tastes more rounded out, whereas with the other one, the one we smoked last episode, it really kind of took to that middle part to get to the real sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that first inch and a half, I remember you used that measurement quite a bit last episode, so it was probably cold where you were too.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't dislike these first few puffs that I've taken.
Interesting. So I found them to be harsh and overwhelming almost, if you can believe it.
On this one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm about a quarter inch down as well, and it is intense.
It is intense, but I like the flavor. Good. It's bold. Like, I like it. Very
bold. I'm definitely not puffing hard on it. It's slow puff. It tastes very nice.
It does. I quite like this one. Did we bought this one at the same time together? Did we?
Yep, I think at the
Tobacco Grove.
Yes.
Also not a sponsor, but it would be great to get them on the show at some point because they've got like the best humidor I've seen. You walk in there and I wear glasses and they instantly fog because they keep it at the appropriate humidity in there. But it's a fairly large room for their humidor.
Yes, and it was very big.
And it's rare that they allow you to smoke cigars in their shop. They actually have like a lounge. I don't know about how rare, but I haven't seen that before. I mean, you're not going to see that at like a smoke shop that also smells vapes, but their sign on their door is great because they say we don't sell cigarettes, vapes, e-juice, or anything. We only sell cigars and pipe tobacco.
Yep. It's so we had a cigar shop up here when I was growing up, and you could smoke inside. When Minnesota decided to do the smoking ban, they kind of killed a lot of that.
Yeah.
Not really on purpose, but the exemptions for cigar shops, proper cigar shops, were extremely limiting.
Yep.
So down in the metro, I really only know of two offhand.
Okay.
Which is Anthony's in Uptown, and then the Tobacco Grove, which is crazy for a city that has, or a metropolitan area that has 2.5 million people. And there's only two cigar shops you can smoke inside.
Yep. But we did talk about last time, you don't really see a lot of people out and about smoking cigars you don't. You might have, decades ago.
Right. It's not as popular as it once was. At least not for a daily type of thing, for sure.
Yeah. And so, I don't smoke cigarettes. But I have smoked vapes every now and then, a couple times. But I got to tell you, like when I'm watching a movie and the main character is vaping the whole movie, there's just something about it that kind of like takes me out of the movie that I don't get when they smoke a cigarette or even a cigar or pipe. It's like they've got the
What movie are you talking about, Nate?
Oh man, it's the one with Rosamund Pike, and it's got. Oh man, I just watched him in Cyrano.
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage, yeah, yep.
Okay.
And she's the whole premise of the movie is Rosamund Pike is a healthcare advocate for old people, but she gets them committed to these old folk homes and swindles them out of their inheritance money by working with the doctors to rack up the medical charges so that their inheritance goes to that, and then they split that.
So she's a lovely young lady.
Yeah, but it's a fantastic movie, and but in there, I believe, I think she it's not so frequent that it's distracting, but I've seen some other movies where the main characters are just always puffing on their vape, and it's like, oh man. But maybe that's how prevalent it was with cigarettes too, and I just don't know because I grew up before they banned smoking in Perkins.
Oh, it was. I've watched a lot of movies from the 50s and the 60s. And
Yeah.
it's like a cigarette advertisement. You know, they'll have John Wayne smoking a Marlboro Red, and the Marlboro will be showing out of the top of his little pocket that he put it in, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's historically accurate for cowboys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So before I lose too much light out here, I know last time we promised we'd talk a little bit about the Black Rednecks and White Liberals book that I've been reading, or that I finished reading, and will soon be sending your way.
I listened to it on Audible.
Okay.
It was free. Came with my subscription.
Well, and what did you think?
I thought it was good. I wanted to listen to it again, to be honest with you, to do more notes, you know?
Yep, exactly.
But I wanted to criticize him, but...
well, we can do both.
In the earlier section, he was describing black redneck culture and white redneck culture. And he kind of was pushing forward the idea that white redneck culture had diminished. And I'm not sure if white redneck culture has diminished, because
I know the white redneck gods have diminished because we took all the statues down of them.
Right, but the fact that they had statues to their gods in almost every small hellhole southern town, you know, they got very upset about it.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I don't know that they have diminished either. I spent 5 years in Oklahoma going to college and then working. And, you know, being from Wisconsin, Minnesota area, I got called Yankee quite a bit for people from a state that wasn't in the Civil War.
Oh, as you know, I worked the oil field for many years, and I have friends from the South, and I worked with a lot of guys from the South, and you know, I've been called a squarehead. You know, they always want me to pronounce words for them because they think it's funny, you know, which is normal. But the squarehead thing caught me off guard. I'd never heard that until I moved there and worked with Southerners.
I haven't heard that until tonight.
Square? Oh yeah, that's I guess a slur against Scandinavians.
Well, color me offended, good sir.
I know. I was like, I'm barely Scandinavian, like 12.5%.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm Norwegian and German, and then, you know, the various kind of European mix sprinkled in. But even with some of these racial slurs, like I haven't looked them up because I don't want Google to target ads to me with like the Confederate flag, boxers, and things like that. But you know, I don't know what some of these words mean that people call other races. Like I don't know where it came from or why that's what we call them. Not we call them, but
right.
People.
Well, yes, there a lot of in my experience, a lot of slurs are regional. They're not national. I mean, obviously, we got the big group that everybody knows.
Don't you say it. Don't you say it.
We're not saying nothing. But
so to get back on point, Thomas Sowell is the one who wrote Black Rednecks and White Liberals, and I thought, you know, it's a series of 5 or 6 essays, I suppose. But I thought it was very interesting because it kind of looks at things from a further distance at the start, and then kind of he drills down to different specifics and different reasons why certain things may or may not have happened. But I know on the last episode we were talking about like imperialism, and so his last essay in here is called History versus Visions, and basically, I don't want to, you know, this is just my summation of it, that it goes into way more depth and he's way more eloquent in getting his point across than what I am. But basically he's saying that by living in modern times, as we are stuck right now, and looking back at history, he is making the argument that certain people, perhaps in power or whatnot, have colored history with their vision of what they want history to enable them to do today. Would you say that's kind of a fair assumption or a fair like summation of that last chapter?
Yeah, I would say it's it's pretty fair. I think his criticism of policies that we've had never really addressed like elements of hard work and personal responsibility, which
Yeah, I think the biggest complaint that I have against this whole entire book is there's not a call to action. There's not a solution or a resolution really other than just kind of a generic, like, everybody should be educated
sure, yes,
in these things. But it doesn't really give you a path of like, well, if I want, equality to work, if I want things to be better, you're not going to find that in here.
no,
I mean,
it's
maybe
describing
it will like trigger you to find something or come up with something. So, I mean, I guess there's that.
sure, it's
You could
potentially describing
you could
a
say the
way
same
that we
thing
got to where
about
we're at.
yeah, and you could say the same thing about like algebra. Like algebra is not going to tell you how to solve it, but we can use that and go to the moon.
Right. And when I mean hard work, so I wrote a little screed about white rednecks. It's not that the white redneck doesn't work hard, quote unquote. It's that they're not smart. They're not. They don't value using your brain to solve problems.
Yeah,
So
it's
these
very
guys will,
more of a
grab.
brawn.
Yeah, they'll grab 10 guys to lift a big pump up instead of going and grabbing one skid steer and one strap. So they use 10 guys where they do, and they're taking 5 times as long.
Yeah,
They're just slow because they don't want to use machines. They don't want to look weak. So
yeah.
they want to, get her done. How many times I've heard that in my life. It's like, no,
Well, it
well, it's
depends on
not
how much you've listened to Larry the Cable Guy is really what.
get her done. Oh, yes. They're all fans of Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah. But yeah, I did want to talk, and I was going to read just one sentence out of here, because we were talking about imperialism, conquest, conquering other nations, Louisiana Purchase, that kind of stuff. But in this last chapter here, he says, conquest like slavery existed on every inhabited continent and involved all the races of mankind as both conquerors and subjugated peoples. And, in that chapter, he really does go through and goes through all the different, not every single different people, but he does go through quite a few examples of how that's kind of been humanity's way of life ever since we got here.
Yes. And I thought that section of the book was wonderful because he is being accurate. Racialized slavery existed in Europe before America was discovered.
Yes.
There was a push to end slavery by imperials, by the imperial governments of the world.
Yeah.
So in many ways...
and by imperial, I think we should also clarify by Western imperial countries.
Yes.
Because I remember Western that was kind of a big distinction that he made, was that, Britain and eventually America, after both had outlawed slavery, England ran a pretty large deficit sending ships out to stop slave ships.
Yeah, in the Arab empires, the Ottoman Empire,
yes,
that area, which there's still slavery there now, unfortunately.
Well, I guess we can blame England for that.
Well, I guess if they would never have made them independent after the First World War. More imperialism, not that that's a good thing to do, but...
Well, it's true.
No, for that issue, it's true. For that issue, it's definitely true.
And I suppose it's also true that, I mean, it's great that we got out of Iraq and everything, but, the Taliban's back now, so.
Right.
That's also not good. But being an inch in now to this cigar, it's mellowed out quite a bit, I think.
I agree. It's mellowed out, and I really like it.
Me as well.
I'm not getting an even burn. But
I didn't get an even burn on my last one, but this one, it's even. This is one nice ash I'm looking at here.
huh. The other one burned very even for me, but this one's a little lopsided, not like Danger Zone or anything,
Yep.
but very good.
Yeah, it's tasty.
So, yeah, that's Thomas Sowell is very, even though it's reasonable and calm, he's not blaming anybody for anything, but it's very controversial. Very controversial. Because certain groups just can't be at fault for their own problems sometimes. Because it's all, the fault of this other evil group where they're always wrong.
Well, and I think that was kind of the great thing about this last chapter, the history versus visions, because, a lot of the things he talked about was saying that, if you dig into some of these social programs, let's just say, that their vision doesn't match with what actually happened or the statistics or facts. And they will ignore things that go against their vision, even if they're true.
Sure.
Which could be said for a lot of people doing all sorts of things, and we talked a little bit about that last episode too, about, just why don't people nowadays converse civilly with one another when they disagree on something?
Right. Yeah, it's always evilist vogue. Immediately.
Yeah. So the other thing we talked about last episode was World War III, and we posited that perhaps China was kind of watching this Russian-Ukraine situation with a closer eye. And a day or two ago, I got a news update on my phone that China had mobilized some troops.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know where or why. Because I try not to go too in depth into any news things, because it's the swing they put on it, or the spin. The spin they put on it.
Yes.
Swing is different. Swingers.
Yes, it's slightly different. Similar but different.
Yeah, I mean sometimes spin helps there too.
I suppose it would. I suppose it would, but yeah, we'll see. I know that China was in some negotiations with the United States, and they were pretty much told us to piss up a rope. Us being the United States government, not any regular person. We're not really involved with any of that.
I thought they singled you out specifically.
Yes, they mentioned me by name. Yeah, in their
so
little
that guy from that cigar podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Where they don't talk about cigars a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that show that has 0 listeners.
Well, we don't know. Speaking about listeners and things, we just watched The Atom Project.
Okay.
That's the new Ryan Reynolds movie.
I've never heard of it.
With time travel. So it's Ryan Reynolds playing Ryan Reynolds in a Ryan Reynolds film. That's not Deadpool, but it kind of is, but less F words. So I don't know if you've seen a lot of Ryan Reynolds films.
I've seen The Proposal and Deadpool, and I just watched Deadpool over the last 2 years or a year or something.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so he did Free Guy, and I don't know. Those are kind of the recent ones that we've seen of his. It's Free Guy, where he's the NPC in the video game.
Okay.
Did you see any trailers for that one?
I don't. I don't watch any sort of movies. I watched Dune. I was really excited for Dune.
Yeah.
But
Dune is really
typically,
good.
If it's not as good as Dune, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm busy doing other stuff.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, you know how he is in Deadpool, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got the snarky comments for everything.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So that's kind of how Ryan Reynolds is, I guess, maybe in even real life. Certainly his Twitter is like that from some of the Twitter screenshots that I've seen. But so he kind of plays that same character in all the movies now. And we were kind of comparing him to, say, Michael Cera. When you hear like, oh, there's a movie with Michael Cera. Well, guess what? He's probably playing a high school kid who hasn't had sex yet.
Right. Now he's got to be 40.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't seen him in anything or heard about him, for quite a while. And so I think he probably got so typecast as that character that he never could get bigger than, Superbad.
Sure.
But it's kind of the same with Ryan Reynolds. Although Ryan Reynolds, I think, because he's done other roles before Deadpool and before he was able to kind of like be himself and have enough, money or say so to be able to bring his own interpretations to these characters. And even though some of the themes in this newest movie, The Adam Project, are, fairly serious, he still has kind of that running sarcastic commentary throughout the entire movie. Which
is it good?
It's good. It's good. I can see where Ryan Reynolds would be kind of a distraction from the storyline. Because like I said, there are some serious things. Like there's time travel, trying to save other people at different times throughout times. And stuff.
So do you think he's getting to like the Burt Reynolds level famous? Where I'm not sure how many Burt Reynolds movies you've seen, but
I've seen a few. I mean, I grew up watching all the movies my grandpa liked, which was a lot of John Wayne, a lot of Jimmy Stewart, a lot of like Grumpy Old Men, that sort of thing.
Sure. So maybe he'll turn into Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
What you're getting. You know what you're getting when you watch a movie with those two in.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say in the past, since Deadpool came out, if you're watching a movie with Ryan Reynolds in it, you know what you're going to get. I think he's about there. He might do like a Nick Cage where he's going to, abruptly shift direction and then kind of like shift back. Because Nick Cage put out a bunch of really terrible movies. And then he put out one called Pig, where he's a truffle hunter and he uses a pig to hunt the truffles. It's a serious movie and it's quite well done. And I really enjoyed it. And I was reading trivia on it. And Nick Cage said that he did Pig because he wanted to prove to everybody he could still act. Because he was self-aware enough to know that he was doing a bunch of, crap movies. Some of which are entertaining and some have not been.
His money problems are, even I know that he's terrible with money.
Yeah, and he's got he's got a new movie coming out where he plays basically a caricature of himself with money problems. And so it sounds quite entertaining if they can do it the right way, but
sure, if it's it might be some good popcorn blockbuster,
So you don't watch a whole lot of movies?
No, I don't watch a whole lot of movies. I don't watch a whole lot of television.
Yeah, I don't watch hardly any television. But speaking about movies, just because that's what I'm interested in, and I seem to have your attention on the subject for right now. But I think this next thing you might be interested in because I know that you like the more controversial opinions on things. And so I really, really want your opinion. And so I think your homework after this episode is to just pick a movie, like a modern movie, and watch and see what you find. Because there's this guy on YouTube, and we've determined that these people are called YouTubers, right? That's
yes,
what the kids are calling them that now. We're done with calling people vloggers, or do we still call them that? I don't remember.
There are still vloggers if they're of a certain age.
Damn it.
Yes, they are. The video response is dead, though.
Oh yeah.
That's a forgotten.
Yeah. You know what I wish would die is you're trying to get this great recipe and you have to read about their life story. And you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to find the ingredients and how to cook it. And they're like, I made this for, But anyway, so there's this YouTube channel that I like, and I've only just recently kind of been introduced to it, and he's called The Critical Drinker, and he's a drunk Scottish guy. But he did a great one on he does a little series on why modern movies suck. And so this most recent one that I watched was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was something about.
Well, he did one on heroes. He did one on villains.
Yep, he did. Oh yeah, it was why modern villains suck. And that's the one I want to talk about, because he says that the unwritten rule of screenwriting, and there's, it's the rules of storytelling. Basically, you've got, you have to have things that catapult your characters along to make a compelling story that people want to watch. You can't, I think Clerks is the first one that kind of comes to mind, where almost nothing happens the entire movie, but you still want to watch it. But that's because he knew what he was doing when he made that. But the modern villains, he's saying the unwritten rule is that...
Was that a jab at He-Man and the Masters of the Universe 2.0? The He-Man free version of He-Man?
It could be. But he was saying the unwritten rule now is you can't have a woman ever be beaten by a man. And I'm not talking like Chris Brown beaten. I'm just talking like they can't lose to a man. And he's very pro, like, yep, there should be more women in films. There should be more minorities in films. There should be more everything in films. But with the caveat that the films have to be good. You can't just randomly throw people in there, especially in a setting where they wouldn't typically be. In the new Lord of the Rings series, he kind of like broke that down, and he was like, the first woman to ever fight in Middle Earth was in Return of the King. So why are there women in full battle garb in the trailer for this prequel to Lord of the Rings? I don't want to get into that, but what he's saying.
We can get into that.
We can. But I wanted to finish this thought first, where modern films and modern things, all the villains suck. And I was going to talk to you about Adam Project, because I watched the movie, and then at the end I was like, oh man, the critical drinker was right. So and I'm going to talk about these other movies that he talks about in the video, because they're, within the past year or so or more, people have had a chance to see them. We don't have to do the spoiler alert thing. But he talks about the new Star Wars trilogy, where, Kylo Ren basically sucks because the protagonist is a woman. So therefore, even at the beginning of the movie series, when she's supposedly the weakest, he can't actually defeat her, because that's not allowed. The unwritten rule is he can't defeat her. And then you get 2 more movies of him not being able to defeat her. So then when she defeats him at the end, and it's not really a clear cut like defeat. It's, it's kind of, they did the same thing. I mean, it's basically the original trilogy, but just told poorly, and it makes way less sense. But even when she defeats him at the end, there's really no payoff, because she never had to work for anything, because he never defeated her. There was never a point where she was like down and out in any way.
No. I hate those movies.
Well, get used to it, because the same thing happens in the Adam Project, but they do some fancy footwork to make it less obvious.
Okay.
No, and he talked about Thor Ragnarok, where Thor's sister is the evil one, but Thor can't actually defeat her, even though he's Thor. And so what they did was they had this, and I'm not a huge comic Marvel person, so if you're going to get upset by me not knowing the name of the thing that came out of the beam and killed her, but they third-partied her death. They had something else come, like some entity come and like stab her with this like cosmic sword. So it wasn't Thor, it wasn't a man, it was some cosmic entity that came out of like a wormhole. And I can just hear, I can hear all the Marvel people just like flipping their shit. Like, this guy, he calls himself a movie fan, but doesn't know the name of the thing that came out of the wormhole. I don't know. There's like 1,000 Marvel movies. I'm sorry.
I can't watch all the Marvel movies. Some of them are bad and some of them aren't.
Yeah,
I have
some
no
are good.
interest in watching them, to be honest with you, because it's all mishmashed together. I'm not interested in that type of storytelling myself.
But you know what? Here's what I will say. Like, we did Avengers, Endgame, and Infinity War. Like, that 2-part one. We did that one. And we've seen some of the other ones. I don't think we've seen any like the Black Widow or stuff like that. But I'll give Marvel their props, because you could be me and have never read a comic book in your life. Only vaguely know like these characters from growing up with like the 1990s X-Men movies, and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans and things like that. But they do a good job of, you can come into any movie, even if you haven't seen the other ones in the universe that they have, and you know what's going on. Like, they do a very good job of making movies that you can just kind of like, you can watch as a one-off, even though it still fits into like a bigger thing, and you could watch them in the order. I've seen these big lists online of all these orders of like how to watch these Marvel movies. And I don't have the time to do that, because there's like 1,000 of them now. But some of them are good and some of them are less good. But I think they do a good job of keeping them accessible for people that aren't the huge comic book fans.
Sure. I think that the Marvel franchise suffers from the same thing as a lot of these new TV shows do. Vikings comes to mind. Anne Boleyn comes to mind. Where instead of coming up with a new story with new characters, they just shove in diverse people into spots where they probably don't belong. There's no woman leader of ancient Scandinavia or whatever in mythology. That's just not the way that it was. And there's historical consequences for lying, right? Anne Boleyn wasn't black.
Yeah.
And it takes away from the struggles of black people in our culture to pretend like she was.
Well,
right?
let's counterpoint that real quick.
Sure.
And let's say, what about Inglourious Bastards and some of these Tarantino films that are reimaginings of historical events?
That's different, because it's a fantasy story, right? Like,
okay, so
Once Upon a Time
he
in
does,
Hollywood is that this is not an accurate. This is a fantasy story, and you know that immediately.
Yes, I'll agree with you. I wanted to do that counterpoint, because you can do movies like this where it is fantasy, and going into it, like Inglourious Bastards, you just know, like, the whole way the film is done. You still get invested in the characters. It's just enough based in history that the people,
Yes.
And what really happened, or you have a vague understanding of, Hitler wasn't machine gunned in a theater.
Right.
Like you know that. I mean,
right.
Some
and
people,
we know that the Manson family did not get shot, by a drunk actor or whatever.
With a flamethrower.
Yeah. Like, we know that that's not true. It's a fantasy story, so it's fine. I was thinking more specifically of we're watching Stargate. And okay. Stargate has the main cast are a white woman who's a scientist who's like a borderline genius, a black guy who's also an alien who is one of the most entertaining guys on the show, and then Richard Dean Anderson, because he's legacy for TV and very popular at that time, and then a random white guy, right, who's also a genius. Like, they have two geniuses, one's a woman, one's a man. And,
well, I mean,
the woman
to be
almost
fair,
always solves all the problems.
They're traveling through Stargates. They need geniuses. You can't just walk through one of those things.
Exactly. And the head doctor's a woman, and they have a diverse cast within the Earth side, and then you go to these other planets, and they have diversity there as well. But
so
it makes sense
are you saying that this is
for the
diversity done well?
Yeah. Yes. It makes sense. It's not diversity just for diversity's sake.
Yes, and so I don't know if you saw the 2016 Ghostbusters Answer the Call, the all-female reboot of Ghostbusters.
I could not bring myself to watch that movie, Nate. I apologize.
You don't have to apologize to me. But there's things like that where you're taking a well-known, loved franchise and you are making it female only, but you're not actually spending the time to write a good script to make it stand on its own two legs. And I can prove to you that they didn't write a good script and they didn't care. They just wanted to have the sensational headline, all female Ghostbuster cast or something like that. And here's the proof, because they brought in every single actor from the original movie in cameos playing parts that weren't their parts that they played in the original. But they would get their own kind of head of steam going. And then there'd be Bill Murray doing something. And you're like, holy shit, that's Bill Murray. And then you would completely forget what these female Ghostbusters were doing. And then it would take another 10, 15 minutes for their story to kind of pick back up pace again. And then there was somebody else. And you're like, okay. And so it was just kind of like, it was like start and stop. They'd kind of get their little storyline going. And then they'd say, well, this movie's no good, so let's get Bill Murray in here, or Dan Aykroyd, or let's get, one of the original cast in here. And then that tanked their entire plot line for like the 5 minutes. And then they, it took them so much time to get back.
Sure.
But that's one where it's like, it's diversity for diversity's sake and story be damned.
Right. See, and I watched some of the previews because obviously I'm of the age where I wanted to do it. I wanted to watch it because it's good. But they had was that Leslie? Can't remember her name. They had Melissa McCarthy and then Leslie Jones, I want to say, and they have these women on the screen and they're acting goofy, and I mean that's not. The story is that these guys are really smart. All of them are smart. They're not goofy. The story is goofy. They're trying to be serious in this goofy world, and that's the way that the story works, right? It's a zany world. They're not zany people.
Yeah, and you're talking Ghostbusters?
Yeah, the original Ghostbusters.
Yeah, well, I mean, Bill Murray was zany. Like, his character was zany. He was kind of,
He wasn't doing, like, Three Stooges pratfalls.
Oh, no.
As far as I remember. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, he was doing, like, the, holding up the flashcards and shocking the men and, rewarding the women. He was doing, like, that kind of stuff. Even though the man was, like, guessing everything right, he was still getting the punishment shock.
Right. Yeah. He was kind of
he was that kind of zany, like a loose cannon, womanizer type.
Yeah. He's not necessarily a good guy.
Well, but I mean, like, I think of the cast or of the characters of the first Ghostbusters, the original, he was maybe the least smart. And maybe he was smarter in interpersonal things because the other characters were quite a bit more brainy,
Yes, he was a sleazy salesman type character.
Yeah.
Which is, you need to have that sort of thing. But I don't care for these reimagining of stories where they're just shitting on the characters.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, they're shitting on the characters.
I want, if you want diverse cast, diverse everything, I'm all for that. I want a diverse story then. I don't want a story from my childhood that you're just going to lazily put these diverse people in. Like, I want, you give me a diverse story. I don't need another Marvel movie. I don't need another Ghostbusters movie. I don't need another James Bond movie. I want a fresh, original story that's a diverse story that comes from diverse people. I don't need another Hollywood, by the book, paint by the numbers blockbuster.
I agree. If you're going to modernize, let's say, Jane Austen, because there's 1,001 fan fictions, people love it.
Yeah.
If you're going to modernize it, make a diverse cast, of course.
Yeah.
But if you're setting
but
it
make it
in
your own
Georgian
too.
England, you can't have diversity there was no diversity in upper class England in the 1700s. There just wasn't. I don't know what else to say. Like, that's part of the problem in our society now, is that they were assholes then and we're getting a hangover still from them. You know? Like, it's.
Why don't you go back and fix it? Go back and you fix Victorian England.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm about halfway through the cigar now.
Yeah, me as well. I was just thinking we should do a cigar check.
Yeah, I am really enjoying it. It's really
I wish I could. I wish I could unsmoke part of it and smoke it again.
Mm-hmm. No, it's really well-rounded. Still dark, but it's not.
It's not overpoweringly so. It's not.
No.
And I'll say the first, the first half-inch, that was really, really bold.
Very bold.
I liked it. I still liked it. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't, it wasn't unsavory. But it was a lot. And if it would have stayed that bold, we'd probably have different opinions on this cigar right now. But it really has mellowed out. Yes.
Yeah. If it would have stayed that bold, I'm pretty sure I would not have. I don't know if I could have smoked it all.
Oh, you would have. I know you, and I know you would have. Just to spite it. Oh, you think you can outbold me?
Sad but true. Sad but true.
Yes.
Have you ever watched a channel called the Metatron? A YouTuber called the Metatron?
No.
Oh, he talks about all sorts of historical things. He's a very interesting character, but he did a video recently on putting, and he's had this series for a while, putting black characters or Indian being from India characters in storylines, historical type settings that they don't belong in. And it's not they don't belong in it in authoritarianism. It's just, if you misrepresent the past in our entertainment, it is misinformation.
If you misrepresent the past with the intent of making a film that is, historically based, opposed to Tarantino's fantastical retellings or reimaginings of historical events, or what ifs.
Right, that it's alternate reality. So.
Yeah. I also want to say though that it's not just putting, diverse people into historical situations where there weren't diverse people. It goes the other way too. Like if you're watching a movie set in Africa before white people ever got there, and you have white people running around, like that's a problem too. And the only one that really comes to mind, and has nothing to do with Africa, so I don't know why I mentioned that, but the James Bond movie with Sean Connery, and they make him look Japanese for a portion of the film, and that was their big thing with Q, and they're like, hey, we're going to make you look Japanese. And of course he doesn't. He looks like Sean Connery with, a bowl cut.
Sure.
And so, I mean, that's probably a very, very low point in the James Bond franchise for just
a lot of
all
older
movies.
We're guilty of that. They even had Marlon Brando playing a Japanese guy in a movie. I can't remember.
I remember that.
Yeah, just insane. That's insane.
But
from our
but why?
No.
Well, yeah.
Look at all the cowboy and indie movies from the 30s
and
the
I
40s,
know there were,
where all of them were white. There were no black people, and we know there was a ton of black people in the West. A lot of black cowboys, ranch hands. A lot of black cowboys and ranch hands. Cowboys were kind of outlaws at that time.
Yeah.
And Native Americans are Native Americans, right? There were Comanches in the 20s and 30s and 40s that could have played those actors. They're just assholes.
They were, and I'm not up to speed on how many good or recognized Native American actors there were back in the 30s or 40s. I don't know.
Me either.
And I apologize for that. I'm really bad with actors and names and things too. So I'm just going to kind of play that card and be like, I don't know. But it kind of brings back to the Black Rednecks and White Liberals, because he's talking about, in there, he talks about the black colleges. They didn't have black professors because there weren't any black people that had the qualifications to be black professors yet. So they had white professors come in and teach at these black colleges to get the black population to that level of education where they could then take over and be professors.
Sure.
Yep.
And
I don't know. Could it have been a similar thing with, minority or, diverse actors back in the 30s, 40s? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
There was a lot of crazy blackface going on. And
oh, no, I know that. I just mean I can't think of any, famous Native American actors of that era. And probably because Hollywood didn't cast them,
Right.
But, I'd have to do some research on that. But
they would even get rid of the Mexican actors, too. As everybody knows.
Yeah.
There's Mexican cowboys and ranch hands to this day, You're having an all-white cast in an area that was diverse, traditionally.
Yes.
In real life, it's crazy. I did think of a modern movie that had all-white actors playing Africans. It was, what was it, The Egyptian Gods? You remember that movie? They came out? Huge blockbuster that flopped.
Okay.
And it had all-white actors.
It totally sounds like a movie that I wouldn't watch. just to be honest with you.
I didn't watch it either. It was like, why do you have all these? This is ridiculous. Like, this is a story about the mythology of Egypt, right? Like, there were no white people there. So, I'm just saying. But then you get the people that also will just cry foul. Just to cry foul, because there was a movie with Rami Malek, and he was playing an Egyptian. It might have actually been Night at the Museum. He was playing like one of the pharaohs or something, and there was some angry comments like, "Why do you have a white dude playing this Egyptian person?" And somebody was like, "That's Rami Malek, and he literally is Egyptian." So, right,
so some people just want to, cry foul for the sake of crying foul.
Oh, sure. And I know in the animated world, there was a big push there for a quick minute to get diverse voice actors in to voice cartoon characters. Yeah. And there's been pushes, to have only gay actors can play gay parts and only transgender people can play transgender parts. And
I remember that with the Eddie Redmayne movie where he played a transgender, and people were mad that it wasn't a transgender actor.
Sure.
And, I don't know. I mean, people get mad about that, but then they were completely fine with Brokeback Mountain with two straight dudes banging in a tent, pretending to be gay,
Sure.
So, but I know there's probably like a whole like sub fetish for that.
Oh, there's, I guarantee you that. I'd bet money.
Don't send me links on that.
Yep.
But, where do you draw the line though? Because I don't know. In my opinion, an actor is playing something they're not all the time. All the time.
Oh, of course. It's pretending that you're not.
Are we going to get upset every time a gay character is portrayed by a non-gay actor?
Well, I was upset when in Lord of the Rings they had all those hobbits, and none of those people were hobbits. All right.
You know what? I was so mad about that too.
Yeah, they needed to go
I
to
said we have so many good hobbits running around. All great actors.
All great actors, yeah.
Well, and like the Klingons in Star Trek. I mean, not one of those Klingons was portrayed by an actual Klingon. Talk about cultural appropriation.
I know. Michael Dorn. Pretty sure that's Worf.
Yep.
Don't quote me on
that's
that.
That's Worf. I will, because you're right.
Yeah. Michael Dorn and his brother, Captain whatever, Kern.
Yeah. Well, and they had Christopher Lloyd play a Klingon.
Yes, they did.
Which I thought was fantastic.
Yep. No, as you know, I'm a Star Trek fan.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
you know where Star Trek really kind of lost me, though? Well, the new movies, because I don't need to go back and see somebody else play Captain Kirk. But I thought the movies were fine, except, the second one was Wrath of Khan, and they promise us that it wasn't Wrath of Khan, and then you went into the theater and you saw it, and it totally was Wrath of Khan. You know,
Yes.
Benedict Cumberbatch playing Khan, and it's the same thing. It's like you're retelling the movie from before. You didn't even write a new movie. You just you grabbed the script from Paramount's locker of scripts, and you made it. You know, but I didn't like the Beastie Boy tracks in a Star Trek movie.
Sure.
Right? Like he's cruising, listening to Beastie Boys, and it's like, fine. But there's been so many other Star Trek movies where they either, like, you know, they'll do some classical music or something, you know, like Picard and whatnot. But you could invent any kind of music you wanted. Like literally any kind of music you wanted. It's a make-believe set in the future. You could have any music you wanted.
That would require creativity.
And you know what? I went and saw the new Batman, the Robert Pattinson Batman.
Yes,
which I thought
did not watch that.
I thought it was very well done. It's a 3-hour movie that does not feel like 3 hours. So they did a phenomenal job with the editing and the pacing and everything. The makeup was amazing. But so it's a 3-hour movie, and they played one pop song twice, the same pop song twice in the movie. It's a Nirvana track, and it just like they played it in like the beginning part of the movie, like the first, I don't know, hour maybe. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Because like Gotham, it's supposed to be, you know, like New York or a kind of a combination of major American cities. But I don't remember ever having them have like real life pop songs. You know what I mean? So it really was kind of like off-putting. And I was like, that really kind of took me out of, you know, the Gotham aesthetic that they had going. And then towards the end of the movie, they play the exact same song again. And I'm like, okay, it's a 3-hour movie. Granted, yes. And I understand the radio will play whatever song is popular. They play it, you know, twice an hour or something. So that's not out of the realm of possibility, but it still is a 3-hour movie. You can't play the same song twice in a 3-hour movie. You could do an instrumental version first, and then over the end credits, play the actual pop song. Like, that's fine. That's fine with me. It's not pulling me out of anything. It's, you know, a nice subtle way to include that piece of music in the movie. But that was kind of my biggest complaint about the entirety of that movie.
In the interest of fairness, I would like to go back to Wrath of Khan.
Okay, let's do that.
Because I thought about this. So, in the remake, Benedict Cumberbatch, who's a very white British man, is playing a character called Khan Noonien Soon, who's supposed to be kind of from the India region of the planet, Superman from the past, you know, reawoken. And it was originally played by Ricardo Montalban, who's a Mexican. So
yes.
In the original, he did not get the character did not get played by a Superman from the Pakistan region, let's say. But they could have done that now. They could have at least cast that character in a way that made sense, not just some like skinny white guy. You know, he's supposed to be like a superhuman in the context of Star Trek, you know.
I guess here's my question. And I'm not doing this because this is what I believe. I'm doing this because I want you to think on your feet. And I'm going to try and get you flustered a little bit. What if he was shirtless? No, that's not what I was going to say.
Partially, he should be partially shirtless.
What if the point that they're trying to make with that is that in the future that this movie is set in, that humanity will be so homogenized that you could have that name and look like a skinny white British dude?
I would say that if that was the point, then they wouldn't have all of the other diverse actors in the story. You know, because they have a Japanese guy with a Japanese name. They have an African woman with an African name. They have a white guy, you know, from Iowa with a white guy from Iowa name.
Yeah. I wasn't saying that because that's what I believed. I was just saying, you know, like for the counterpoint, what if that's what, you know, that's how they're trying to get around lazy screenwriting or lazy casting.
It's lazy casting, lazy screenwriting. I mean, lazy all around for sure. But they could have gotten some bodybuilder. You know, somewhere to play that role who was actually Indian and not, like a British Indian guy, whatever. I don't care. He probably should, in an English speaking movie, obviously he needs to speak English, but he can have an accent.
They could have got Gandhi. Gandhi was ripped.
Right. He was ripped. Ripped where it mattered.
Well, I was hoping you were going like the brain, but that's not where you were going. So.
Oh, you mean one of the most brilliant guys in like the last 100 years? I can't make fun of him a little bit.
That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's like perfect example of. Well, they should have. I can't believe they didn't make a stink about it. Now that I really think about it,
Yeah, I mean, it just seems it seems so kind of pick and choose. Like they just I don't know who they are. The social justice warriors or whatever. The thems behind the curtain. But why wouldn't people get upset about that? Why didn't people get upset about Brokeback Mountain outside of the religious right? But I mean, for casting non-gay people in gay roles.
Right. There's plenty of extremely attractive gay men in Hollywood that could have played ranchers in Montana. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we
know this.
Yeah.
There's plenty of gay actors that would love to play that role, I'm sure.
Well, and you know what? They don't have to necessarily be attractive. I mean, isn't that kind of what the point is supposed to be? Is we don't have to have like the womanizing of James Bond because everyone's beautiful in their own way. I mean, I think that's like ideally what people want, but they can't vocalize that.
Possibly.
Well,
I met a lot of ranchers in Montana, and they're not.
Were they all beautiful?
Yeah, they're not as attractive as Heath Ledger. I can assure you. And the women certainly don't look like whatever actresses that are human goddesses they had in the movie that I don't even know the names, but I'm certain they were attractive.
Yeah.
Certain. But. Mm-hmm. I have about 2 inches left of my cigar, and it's still good. That whole middle section has been really good.
Yeah, I've got probably a little more than 2 inches, just because now that it's not quite so bold, Mike, you've been able to outpace me once again.
Yes, I have.
But we did a lot better, I think, this episode, kind of keeping pace with one another.
Yes,
I haven't really had to speed up, and I don't think you've slowed down any.
No, I haven't. I've just been casually puffing away.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit.
Now, I have a question for you. And I've done no research, so I'm going to sound like a total fool. What happened?
That's why we're here.
Yeah, well, if anybody is listening, they can tell we're fools.
But hopefully somewhere in the middle of the fool spectrum, where we're educated enough to know when we're being a fool.
I would, well, at least when it's pointed out, we should.
Yeah, complete and utter fool, we know.
Yeah. But what happened to Lou Diamond Phillips?
I would love to tell you if I knew who that was. Like I said, I'm very terrible with names, to the point that if we're watching a movie, my wife and I, and I can't think of the actor's name who we're watching, I'll just pick another actor's name and be like, man, I can't believe so-and-so's in this movie and he's doing such a great job. And she'll go, that's not that actor. It's quite fun. She enjoys it a lot when I do that.
I'm sure she does.
Okay, so refresh my memory on who this person is, and then I will tell you what happened to them. Yes,
Lou Diamond Phillips played in Young Guns as one of the gang. He was one of the Mexican members of the Regulators that rode with Billy the Kid and all those characters. And he was in a lot of blockbuster type movies in the late 80s and early 90s. And then for about 20, 30 years, he was gone. And now I've been seeing him as like bit roles in some of these like cop dramas that my parents watch during the summertime. It's you go and visit them and they'll be watching NCIS whatever. And I've seen him in a lot of these shows. I don't know if he's a regular character on that show particularly or what, but he's kind of disappeared off the earth for a while.
Oh, I just pulled him up, man. And I totally, he's right. I recognize him. Like, I know him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was super famous.
I'm just telling you, I'm terrible with names of actors and musicians.
Yeah. There we go.
But yeah, I don't see anything that necessarily explains like his absence. I guess he's been on some TV stuff, and I don't watch a lot of TV things, so that's why probably you haven't seen him either if you don't watch TV shows.
No, I don't watch.
It looks like
from old sci-fi shows
from 2012 to 2017, he was on Longmire, TV show. But I haven't seen that, so
never heard of it.
But yeah, it looks like he went to TV.
Oh, good for him
to explain what happened to him. I miss him.
Yes, I miss him too. I miss Emilio Estevez as well. And Charlie Sheen. He's not on there anymore either. I love Charlie Sheen.
Oh, yeah.
Great, crazy guy.
We did just watch a movie, though, recently, within the past year or two, and Emilio Estevez was in it. And I think the movie wasn't very good. I don't recall, but I remember saying, like, it was good to see Emilio again. But I can't remember what it was.
The last movie I saw, not the last movie I saw, but one of my favorite movies he was in was Judgment Night. I just think that movie is great.
Okay, I haven't seen that one, so I'll have to put that on my list to watch.
Oh, it's got Cuba Gooding Jr. and Emilio Estevez and Dennis Leary.
Okay.
And very good, like horror action in a modern setting. Yes. He's got the guy from Entourage. Can't remember his name. Well, my own bad memory with actors' names.
Yeah, a really good like modern horror movie that we watched was The Wolf of Snow Hollow. Okay. And that one was fantastic. It was really, really good. And that same actor, he wrote, directed, and acted in it. And he also, I think, Jim Cummings. And he also did one called Thunder Road, which was kind of like based off of the Bruce Springsteen song, or that's where it gets its name from. And they never actually used the song in the movie, which is a little bit of a disappointment. But that one was good too. It was completely different. It was like The Wolf of Snow Hollow is more of like the creature horror, but it's more like funny than horror. And then the Thunder Road is like a police officer who's on suspension or something. I don't know, trying to win his daughter. Two very different movies, but they're both excellent.
Might have to start watching movies again. I will have more time this summer.
I think so.
Yeah. We've been watching Stargate.
Yep.
The whole Stargate universe of television shows. And then also we started watching The Witcher.
Okay.
Which I don't know if you've seen that, but
I haven't seen it. I wanted to watch it, but so here's my thing with like TV series. I am much, much more interested in watching them if they're done. Like if they're done making them. And I think maybe that's why I like British television series more, because they typically only go for 2 or 3 seasons max. And then the writers, they go on and do something else and they put out another series. But it's, again, it's only a couple of seasons long. So.
Right. It's not the Star Trek where
it's not The Simpsons.
5 shows. And
it's not South Park. You don't have to watch like, I want to start with 1. Well, they're still going and they're, 30 seasons deep now.
Right. They'll never be off the air. Well, they will eventually, but
I don't know if they will. I mean, they're bringing people back with CGI and, who's to say they won't like bequeath the Simpsons property to somebody else to keep it going.
Sure. Yeah, it's possible. I know that when you do watch The Witcher, it is very rated mature, quote unquote. A lot of sex and swearing and violence. So, not a good one to watch with the kids. Not a good one to watch with the kids.
Yeah, probably not.
It's good. That's another show that has a diverse casting. That makes sense.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's based on a video game.
It's based on a video game. It's based on a series of novels written by a Polish dude.
Oh, okay.
And he's after I watched the show, of course I did the internet rabbit hole.
Yep.
And he's apolitical, type of guy. So
yeah,
very interesting. And I know that he has criticized the English translations of his works.
Yep.
For not having accurate language, I guess.
Well, that's, translations, that's always interesting. I know that I really enjoy Marcus Aurelius. And when I was researching which edition of his journal, Meditations, to get, I went down so many rabbit holes on which translation was, quote unquote, the best or the truest to the original text.
So what's the answer?
The answer is that there are two very good ones. I've only read the one, but there's a newer one that just came out within the past year or so, a new translation and a new edition and everything. And I guess that one's very well done. I don't know which edition I have. I'll look right now, but we can keep talking.
Absolutely. You should read it in Latin. That's the answer. Read it in Latin.
That way you don't lose anything.
I guess so.
Except the language.
Right. Well, Latin's not that difficult to read.
But it's dead. It's dead.
It is dead, but you can find all the Catholic texts and stuff in Latin still, so...
It's dead, Jim.
It's dead. Sorry for the dead air. I was yelling for the dog to come inside.
Oh, yeah. So here it is. It is the Meditations, a new translation, and it's only $8 on Amazon. Not a sponsor.
Someday we'll be on Bezos's super yacht that they tore a bridge down to.
Yeah, he's going to come and he's going to slap me silly with a copy of this book because I didn't give him any money for mentioning a book that he sells. But okay, so it's Gregory Hayes. It's the Gregory Hayes translation. And that's the one that I read. And then there's a newer one, which might be hardcover. It might have extra like little footnotes and things. But I've heard that it's good. So therefore it must be.
Well, everything you read on the internet is true.
Yeah, so here it is. The new one that I want to read is the Marcus Aurelius Meditations, the annotated edition, translated by Robin Waterfield.
Okay.
And so I hear that one is a nice translation too, and with the annotations gives you a little bit more to go on.
Sure. Interesting. Yeah, I've read the Penguin Classics edition years ago.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's a good translation or not, to be fully honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess on some level, if you're reading something like that anyway, it's probably better than not reading that. But you could certainly get more true to what was intended by getting one of the higher rated translations, I suppose.
Sure.
But it's interesting that, Marcus Aurelius, this was basically his journal. So it's not like he was writing it for publication or even intending anyone else to ever see it.
Right. Yeah, I'm aware that a lot of it was...
like he wrote it on horseback a lot of times when he was, traveling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I didn't know that. I know that a lot of it was not so much it was like him chiding himself because he was making mistakes.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
reminding
It
himself
was very
to not make
self-reflective.
those mistakes. Yes.
Yes. And mistakes, yes, and also he's part of the Stoic philosophy, Stoicism, and one of the big critiques of people that haven't really researched much about Stoicism is that they think that these people are emotionless, or strive to be, because he was Stoic, and as somebody who's like in the face of great emotional turmoil, and they stay like poker faced basically through it, but really it's embracing your emotions but not letting them carry you away or carry your thought process away. And so there's a lot of that kind of like self-chiding in there too, like, oh, I was angry about this and I shouldn't have made this decision in anger, kind of things like that.
Yep. Well, my cigar at about 1.5 inches is now starting to get sour.
Yep, mine's sour, and I've maybe about 2 inches.
Okay.
But it's just I could just, when you said that, I just took a puff, and I just kind of got a little hint of sour.
Just a touch.
So I know it's coming.
Yes, it is coming. Bitterness. Ooh.
Yep. So maybe I'll slow down and see if that fixes it.
Possibly so.
But yeah, this one it stayed lit the whole time. Very even burn for me on this one.
It after I knocked the initial ash off, it re-evened up.
Oh, perfect.
And now it's very, 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 very even smoke, and the box pressing rounded off towards the end there.
Yes, mine did as well. I would say there are some cigars you can smoke pretty close to the end, and they taste great all the way through. I don't know that this is going to be one of those, though.
No, I'm about done with it, to be honest with you, because it's starting to get that dirt taste.
Oh, yep.
Which is, the sign to be done, which is fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sign for me to be done smoking.
Yes, but yeah, all in all, it was an enjoyable cigar. I thought it was a lot more consistent throughout.
Yes, it was very consistently good.
Yes,
there was no wasted space, so to speak.
Yep.
So very
that is
good.
true.
I would highly recommend it to anyone, I suppose. I'll have to send you a care package here.
Yeah, I'll have to send one your way, or maybe we should try and I don't know, meet up in person.
We definitely could do that. I know that next weekend I am busy as usual, but I will be coming down mid-April.
Okay.
To the cities.
We'll be going up, I think mid-April, because that's my wife's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll have to coordinate some schedules there.
Yeah. She's not old enough for me to lie about her age yet, so.
Yeah.
Over the weekend, I had a friend turn 53, and we're all like, "Oh, he's 33 now."
Oh yeah. We had our neighbors over, and he likes cigars and pipes as well, and he's 51, and we have a lot of older friends, though. Most of the people we hang out with are, like one of my best buddies. We watch a lot of shitty movies together, and he's 8 years older than I am, and most of my friends are older. I've got a couple of good friends that are in their 50s, and stuff. And of course, you're what, 62 now?
Yes, I am 62. Oh my god. I guess I'd be close to retirement. That's positive.
So I don't know why I'm still smoking this cigar. I should be done too.
Perfect.
Yeah, anyone younger than me, okay, so any female I ever talk about is always 21. And I've never had any complaints from the females, whether they're younger than 21 or older than 21. They all seem to like 21 as a number. So
that does seem to be the peak age.
It's a safe bet.
Yes, it is a very safe bet, especially when you know she's not 21. So. Well, I suppose we got to wrap it up.
Yeah. I think if you do the Punch 1840 Diablo, that is a wise investment for something that is a little bolder and darker than other cigars.
Yeah, than average.
There's certainly darker cigars than this one out there. But this one is, if you like the bolder and darker flavor, this is a good one.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, join us next episode where we talk about.
Who knows? Whatever we're going to talk about. Who knows?
We'll figure it out.
We will figure it out.
We'll figure it out, and you will find out.
Do you have any Kentucky Cheroos at home?
No, I don't. But here's what I wanted to do with that. Okay, because so our episode format is basically we light a cigar, smoke the cigar, and when we're done with the cigar, the episode's done.
Yes.
Which I think is great because we can talk about the stuff that we normally talk about. I mean, for Mike and myself here, this is when we get together and smoke cigars in the same room or the same space. That's what we do. We light it, and then we just talk about all sorts of things. We're a little more focused for these podcasts here than we are in real life.
Yes, we are.
But what I was thinking about for the shrews, because they're smaller and you can smoke them quickly, I wanted to do like a shrew showdown where we get the Kentucky shrews that we like, but we've been eyeing on pipesandscigars.com, not a sponsor, some other shrew packs. And so if we each, if you bought a different pack and I bought a different pack, we'd have like 3 different shrews, and we could do a 3 shrew episode where we smoke 3 shrews, and we could cut them in half, whatever. I don't know, however long we think we need to be smoking them. But then we could kind of give our thoughts and say, hey, these shrews, they're all around the same price point, or this one's a little more expensive. Is it worth it? Isn't it worth it? Which of these is best?
Sure. I like that idea.
All right. So that will be coming up sometime.
Sometime in the future.
Yes.
Sometime in the future.
But yeah, we're going to wrap this episode up, and then we will see you next episode.